Welcome back. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Rishika Barua. The latest in India's crackdown on drugs. 142 people were taken into custody on Sunday after the Hyderabad police busted a massive rave party at the pub of a five-star hotel in the city. Those taken into custody included celebrities, star kids, children of prominent politicians, and even a top bureaucrat. Contraband like weed and cocaine was seized from them. A day later, those names were let off after collecting their blood samples, but a probe continues in order to identify the peddlers, the consumers, and what really was happening at this party. Uma Sudhir joins us with the very latest. Uma, we have very dramatic pictures that you've sent us, which essentially show how these drugs were actually being hidden in plain sight using, straws, etc. This was, of course, a party that went on way beyond the permissible limit at a well-known five-star hotel in Hyderabad.
Yes, indeed. The police party that went in because this was exceeding the hours during which you can serve liquor or even drinks or even to outsiders. So this was in pre-dawn, around 2 a.m. is when they went in Sunday morning, and they were in fact having a suspicion. They had some information that there could be some banned substances there as well. In that video that we are in fact playing out, the counter where the drinks were being served, that was being searched, and that's where you had the straws and the stirrers and the toothpicks, and also you can see a lot of other green materials that have been kept there, and the manager and the co-owner in fact explained, saying that there is lemongrass and this is some other kind of item that's put into the drinks. And subsequently, among the straws there are some small kind of sachets that are attached to some of those straws, and in the FIR they have been described as buds that have been wrapped in some kind of a white white kind of sachets, and they are being told that that is sugar or sugar substitute, but subsequently it was found to be cocaine. So 5 grams of cocaine is what has been found in this very, very high profile place, a pub inside a five-star hotel of a very prestigious chain that is in the Banjara Hills area of Hyderabad. There were nearly 150 people inside that pub at that time. 142 people have been named in lists that have been made public, and those, as you mentioned, include not just the son of prominent Congress politician. There is a son of an MP from Andhra Pradesh, Telugu Desam MP from Andhra Pradesh, daughter of a bureaucrat, the daughter of a film star who also happens to be herself a film star. There's also a singer, Rahul, who in fact has been a winner of the Telugu reality show Big Boss. All of them were inside, but the police is not saying that any of them either consumed or were in possession of the drug. What they have been what they were detained for is for questioning. We are told that blood samples were not taken of all these people. They were let go subsequently, but the FIR that's been lodged is under the sections of the narcotics and drugs, and under those sections, because there were these drugs found, that's what the FIR says. 4 people have been named in the FIR. 2 of them are still absconding. That happens to be the management of this particular pub, and one person called Abhishek Uppala, who is the co-owner of this pub, and the manager Anil Kumar. Both of them have been taken into custody, and we are being told that some kind of a confessional statement was taken from Anil Kumar, and the police has now taken them into custody. All this of course is part of a larger kind of a crackdown that the Hyderabad police and in fact the Telangana police has undertaken on drugs in the state of Telangana, and as part of that, in fact, there is a Hyderabad drug enforcement wing that was created, and there were a lot of awareness campaigns that were carried out, crackdown. There were major kingpins who were arrested who were dealing with drugs or peddling drugs. Just recently, in fact, there is a very distressing incident of an engineering student, a BTech student, dying of a drug overdose. He had been sourcing his drugs from Goa, and what we were told is that he had tried a cocktail of the drugs in Goa, and that led him to an emergency, and he had to be rushed in fact to hospital, but he could not survive. With tragic incident like that happening, that triggered even more of a serious response from the administration, the police and the task force, which has now decided that Hyderabad should not become a drug capital, and therefore when we are positioning ourselves as a global kind of a city, the Chief Minister was very clear that this is something that needs to be contained with awareness and with very stringent action, and that's why we saw this kind of a raid, we are told, in a five-star hotel pub where there was information that there could be banned substances. What I'm also told by certain other officers is that there are about 50 odd pubs in the city, and more than 50% of them, at least 26 of them, were in fact closed in 2019 after they were found to have many other violations, including the fact that safety, fire safety, municipal violations, all of them were there, but all of them came back in some avatar or the other. As we know, there is a lot of money that does the rounds with businesses in pubs, but the unfortunate aspect is that some of them also seem to be dealing with or allowing the peddling of drugs within their premises, and that's a reason for worry for the authorities and for the citizens as well. Back to you.
Thanks, Uma, for joining us with all those details. We'll of course keep a close watch on that investigation now. Let's shift our focus to the other big development we're tracking. The Haridwar hate monger Yati Narsinganand is out on bail, and on Sunday he delivered yet another hate speech in the national capital. The provocative speech where he reiterated the call for use of weapons against Muslims was delivered at a religious function in Burari in Delhi. 3 FIRs have been launched against him in connection with this event, but no arrests have been made just yet. One of the FIRs names Yati Narsinganand himself, and the others name unknown people, and a third is regarding journalists who were beaten up at the event. Now, Yati Narsinganand was arrested in January for organizing an event in Haridwar that featured calls for genocide of Muslims. He was released on bail on February the 18th under the condition that he wouldn't repeat the offence. Akshay Dongre joins us with the very latest. Akshay, very interesting aspect of the story also is the fact that the Delhi police were actually present guarding this event, while they say that they never gave any permission to take place in the first place.
Well, Rishika, yes, a lot of shocking details emerging from the event that took place on 3rd of April in the national capital this time, because Yati Narsinganand is one of the main culprit as far as the other case of hate mongering is concerned in an event that took place in Haridwar last year, where the event and made calls for people to take up arms against the Indian state, and also there were calls for genocidal threats against the Muslims of the country. And this time Yati Narsinganand had the audacity to in fact make similar kind of claims, make similar kind of a speech in the national capital, this time in the Burari ground, where there were about 700 to 800 of his followers present. Another shocking aspect of this entire event is that the Delhi police was present there despite a permission from the police or the DDA. The event took place there. The police says that they were there for law and order maintenance, but no attempts were made by the cops as well to prevent that event from happening, despite knowing what kind of the event was happening there. The journalists who were present, they were targeted, they were called even from the stage, and many of those journalists were thrashed by the supporters of Yati Narsinganand. Journalists are also alleging that their phones were snatched from them and footage was deleted. All this while the police was present there, and when they realized that the crowd is getting more agitated, they in fact provided some security to these journalists. They took them to the Mukherjee police station. But the big question that remains is that why did the police not take action against Yati Narsinganand when he was making such inflammatory speech, which is in fact a violation of the
similar questions, Akshay, were asked at the time when the Haridwar event took place as well. I have with me Ashutoshsrivastava, advocate of the Supreme Court, who supports the BJP, as well as Adil Singh Boparai, spokesperson of the Congress, who is also an advocate in the Supreme Court, joining us. Thank you both very much for being with us. Mr. Srivastava, to you first, is this not a violation of the very conditions under which Yati Narsinganand was given bail?
The prosecution may go if they feel that conditions have been breached. Then the prosecution may file accordingly, and they will have to produce all the relevant documents and evidences of any such breach. Obviously, when a bail is granted by any court on certain terms and conditions, it is expected that the conditions shall be complied by the accused who has been granted bail. So far as this case is concerned, so obviously that will depend now further on the courts, how they take it, the statements which have been made. I think another FIR has already been registered in this case under section 188, 153A and 295A of IPC. I think there are other FIRs also in which some of the journalists have also filed FIR because they were manhandled and their mobiles were snatched by some of the people. So now here it has to be seen whether if somebody is going to any function, it doesn't mean that the organizer is only responsible for all that. But one more thing is important, as the police has said that they had not given any permission. So that aspect also has to be seen whether such permissions were given to organize such a big event where 800 people or maybe more than that were gathered, and in this particular incidents what has taken place, and organizers who have organized, there were many speakers.
Right.
So I think none of them have been accused of any such hate statement, except one particular person who
which is why it shouldn't be difficult ideally. Which is why it shouldn't be difficult ideally, Adil Singh Boparai, for action to be taken against the said person, should it?
Rishika, these people, these criminals and anti-social elements are jewels of the BJP. These are people who are encouraged, aided and supported by the BJP. These are the foot soldiers of the BJP which sow the seeds of polarization and communalism in this country, and this reaps electoral dividends to the BJP. So why would the BJP act with alacrity and put them in jail? So that's question number one. Question number two is that this individual, this criminal, has been caught on camera making calls for genocide, making inflammatory speeches, provoking breach of peace. It's been over 24 hours. This individual has not been traced and arrested. This speaks volumes. I repeat, I say this not as a Congress Party spokesperson, as a lawyer, but as a citizen of this country. I'm exasperated by how the law and order mechanism is functioning in this country. These videos are there with TV channels, these videos are there with journalists. Why is the Delhi police not arresting him? Should the message be sent? Should such criminal elements be allowed
I want to respond to some of that,
public?
because I think Adil Singh Boparai has raised two important points. One is that if not for the support of the ruling dispensation, why else would Yati Narasimhanan continue to spew venom in the manner that he does over and over again? He's a repeat offender. After what happened in Haridwar, he was arrested out on bail. He's violating his bail conditions. And, in the national capital, not in some obscure corner of the country where he won't be seen or heard, in the national capital of Burari grounds, he has once again come out and said the same thing.
See, my learned friend, what he explained just now, as if he is a party worker, or maybe he is, he's holding some chair or position in the political party or in BJP or something like that. See, the clarity is that when it happened in Haridwar, the FIR was registered, obviously in the BJP ruled government only, and the actions were taken against him, and he was supposed to go to the court to get bail, and the court, after taking cognizance of the matter and taking into consideration all the evidences and the sections which were implicated in the FIR, he was granted bail on certain terms and conditions. So where is the violation of rule of law? See, if anybody is breaking the law, then obviously the government or the police authorities or whoever investigating agency is supposed to do and register the FIR and take action against such.
Adil Singh Boparai, you want to respond to that? Advocateaashutoshsrivastava says the law took its course then and will hopefully take its course now, but it's up for the prosecution in this case to come out and say that his bail order has been violated.
It's a pity, Rishika. It's a pity that somebody who's a lawyer, who's from a noble profession of the judiciary, who's a practicing lawyer, is tacitly trying to defend such criminals. The fact is that there was an incident yesterday. This incident is distinct. This is a separate cause from what happened in Haridwar. There is an FIR. It's been over 24 hours. Should an arrest not follow? Is he trying to justify what this individual has said? And I'm again saying this, I am not wearing the hat of a Congress Party spokesperson when I say this, but individuals like this Yati fellow will tear the social fabric of this country. Mr. Srivastava, please put your political affiliations aside for a moment. Individuals like him are a threat to our society. And I sincerely hope that the government of India, the Delhi police comes under the MHA, this individual should be arrested and stringent provisions of law should be invoked. Such repeat offenders, I again underline, are a threat to the social fabric of our country.
Ashutosh Srivastava, I also want to ask you about the conduct of the law enforcement agencies. We saw this in Haridwar as well, with senior police officials, politicians exchanging smiles, camaraderie with Yati Narasimhan. Those pictures came soon after he was accused and there were FIRs against him at the hate speech event. At the event on Sunday as well, we are learning that the Delhi police actually never went ahead and gave any such permission for this event to take place, but were there guarding this man who was standing on stage and saying these things.
That itself answers your question. That means when the police had not given the permission, that means the police was not being utilized by the so-called person whom we are talking about. That means the law in this country is above everything. And if somebody is violating law, the law and order has to be maintained and the courts have to take its course. The
you don't think that the conduct of the Delhi police it should be questioned in this case?
Had Delhi police allowed such kind of, the inauguration of functions, then it should have been questioned. Now, when the FIR has been registered by the same police is going to take actions as it has happened in UP also in the previous incidences what he has done. Now, see, there is a punishment prescribed for every offence. See, every person who commits any offence cannot be just sent behind the bar. It has to be under the sections what has been inserted, what has been implicated under. And the courts have to see it. The law and order has to be maintained by the courts.
10 seconds, out of time, very quickly, go ahead.
My friends should stop teaching us law and giving us the spiel. The police's job is to investigate. It is the police which will investigate and then send the person to trial. Let the police do its job. The police is inaction. I repeat, the police is inaction, is demonstrating how such elements are supported by the BJP. That is the bane of our country.
All right. Well, one sincerely hopes that there is action that is at least taken, cognizance is taken of this matter, because Yati Narasimhan not only once again spewing venom at a public gathering, he is also in complete violation of his bail order. There are 3 FIRs against him, and 24 hours later, no action has been taken. We'll track that story very closely. Ashutosh Srivastava, thank you very much for joining us in NDTV. Let's shift our focus now to the big story we're tracking from Uttar Pradesh, where